With Halo Campaign Evolved officially on the way, it felt like the right time to finally make a video about the series that rewired my brain as a kid. Halo is massive now. Games, books, short films, animated series, whatever the hell this was, but I keep coming back to the only place this was ever really going to begin. Halo 5. Nah, I'm kidding. We're talking about Halo Combat Evolved, the game that shaped my love of gaming. What made Halo so special? Part of it was mechanical. Halo helped lock in the console controller scheme that we still use to this day, using the dual analog sticks that were attached to this absolute unit of an Xbox controller. Then there was the AI, not the weird tech bro crap that we're all sick of hearing about now, the actual enemies and allies in the game. Killing an elite and watching the grunts panic felt mind-blowing at the time. Enemies didn't just stand there waiting to die, and that, paired with the music and the story, it all made Halo feel alive. It got so big that for years, every other shooter was branded a Halo killer. But when Halo finally made its way to me in 2002, I was 6 years old, which meant I knew absolutely nothing about anything. My first experience with Halo was at my parents' friend's house. Me and my sister were playing with our daughters outside, but I ended up getting whisked away by their dad to be shown this new game console called the Xbox, and I haven't seen grass since. I didn't ask for this, I was having a lovely time in the treehouse, and the next thing I knew I'd been deposited in this guy's man cave and handed Halo. Whatever happened that day clearly stuck, because my mum and dad eventually got sick of hearing me bang on about Halo and bought me an original Xbox. The family computer in the computer room had served me well through Monkey Island, but the Xbox was about to become my platform of choice. Mostly. So this is really about Combat Evolved, how it plays, why it landed so hard, and why I still hold it in such high regard. And if you've never played it before, I still think it's worth your time. First things first, recon controls, because apparently I'm incapable of playing Halo any other way. And yes, I'm sticking with the original visuals. I can appreciate what the anniversary version was trying to do, but I much prefer the classic look, and we'll come back to why. Which now of course means there's a very real chance I'll have to revisit all of this again once Campaign Evolved is out. Right, let's get into it. We start with the Pillar of Autumn, where it's clear we're running away from something, and doing a pretty bad job of it. For this playthrough, I realised I'd never actually played on Heroic. I went from being a child playing on Normal to a sweaty achievement hunting teenager who played on Legendary. But now I'm older, wiser, and I've known the touch of a woman, so I don't need to prove anything to you. Heroic skips the hand-holding, so we wake up from cryo as the Master Chief and get thrown straight into the action. Or not quite. First we have to report to the bridge. On the way there, Bungie does a neat bit of onboarding. You pass your comrades getting absolutely rinsed by the Covenant, and in the process the game shows you the enemy types before it properly asks you to fight them. One bloodbath later, we make it to the bridge, where Captain Keyes asks us to take Cortana and keep her safe, something that definitely won't become the emotional linchpin of the entire franchise. So the mission is simple. Fight our way off the ship and keep Cortana out of Covenant hands.
Don't keep it loaded, son. You'll have to find ammo as you go.
Our pistol has 6 rounds. Halo's Magnum is legendary. It's incredibly accurate, packs a punch, and is great for headshots. It is one of the most overpowered guns in games. But almost immediately Halo hands you the assault rifle as if that's the upgrade, and compared to the Magnum, it's basically just grinding pepper at people very quickly. And once the fighting starts properly, it becomes very clear that Halo wants you to feel dangerous. We also learn that punching your enemies in the spine is a whole lot of fun. As we head for the escape pods, we come up against more and more Covenant. This is because whenever a human escape pod launches, the Covenant are using the leftover hatch to board.
They're using our lifeboat airlocks to attach their boarding craft. We go out and they come in. Clever bastards.
Always liked that the boarding pods hid little rewards like overshields, Halo quietly teaching you to poke around. And if there's one room I always remember from the Pillar of Autumn, it's this stairwell, because I still love Hail Marying a grenade through that door as it opens. Spawn killing is a legitimate strategy. Halo also introduces Covenant shields nicely here, the elite confidently hiding behind one while I kill his friends. I then remember, slightly too late, that hitting elites from the front is harder than hitting them from the back. Wait a second. Trying to find our way out, we journey through some maintenance tunnels and end up in the observation room overlooking where we woke up at the beginning. I like this bit. There's so much destruction to the ship, and yet 3 elites are unable to shoot through that thin glass window. One last push and one very satisfying double sticky grenade, and we make it to the final life pod.
Oh no!
Now would be a very good time to leave.
Punch it.
Ah, sir. We're gonna make it, aren't we, sir? I don't want to die out here.
And everybody's dead. Probably due to the walking tank pinballing around and crushing everyone. Anyway, welcome to Halo. It's worth saying that the first experience I had with Halo was almost entirely the Pillar of Autumn, and I didn't get to revisit the game until months later when I got my own Xbox. At the time, I couldn't bring myself to go any further. The vastness of Halo was too much for my tiny mind. To this day, climbing out of the life pod is still impressive. There are clouds with these punches of green land as you scan up, and damn, it's just beautiful. And it's also my first real gripe with the anniversary overhaul, because that feeling gets lost straight away. And hey, if you like the anniversary visuals, fair enough, but I always felt like the essence of the game got a bit lost in the remake. You barely get a moment to take it in before a Covenant dropship forces you into the cliffs. We encounter our first patrol, and I drop the pretense of hiding completely. Now, grunts annoy me anyway, but combat evolves headshot logic doesn't help. Just saying, if you were to shoot me in the head from the side, I would die. Hopping our way through the cliffs, we find some survivors who didn't have as bad a landing as I did. As a kid, I would always stress out about how to save all the friendly Marines, which meant playing too defensively and getting them slaughtered. The trick is to play aggressively and throw grenades while the Covenant drop in, and I want to point out that you don't actually gain anything from saving them, but it's nice. It's what the Chief would do.
Another bandit dropping in behind us. They're trying.
This line is absolutely stuck in my head. Just the sheer jar-headedness of it. A Marine always died right after this when I was younger, so I've heard it hundreds of times. Once the area's clear, Foehammer drops in with a Warthog, introducing a great supporting voice and the other half of the sandbox. Vehicles. The Warthog, like the assault rifle and the Magnum, are iconic. It's bulky, blocky, and if I want to sound really wanky, it defines the UNSC's aesthetic perfectly. And with that, Halo really opens up, and we enter this cave.
This cave is not a natural formation.
Thank you, Cortana. Inside the tunnel, it opens up into this huge cavern area with a bridge. The atmosphere is gloomy and unfamiliar to anything you've really seen up until now. You get the feeling that this area is alien to the Covenant as well. In fact, you get the feeling that both humans and the Covenant are only just arriving and this is new for them both. You activate the bridge and Halo gives you one of those moments that just burns itself into your brain. It isn't a physical bridge at all, it's this glowing blue light bridge and it looks fantastic. This is probably one of the more egregious art changes with the Anniversary Edition. I like my holes gloomy and that is not a gloomy hole. On the far side, Halo gives us a simple objective: find and rescue 3 groups of survivors. These rescue sections are a good example of Halo's sandbox thinking. You can approach them in a bunch of different ways, but I prefer a very messy Warthog strafing run. Halo's friendly AI is also just janky enough to turn a rescue attempt into accidental manslaughter. As a kid, I got lost in this part of the level constantly, but to be fair, I wasn't exactly paying close attention to mission objectives. Another Marine dies and I exact my revenge in what I believe is called the flow state, which is sadly not a valid excuse when you're on trial at The Hague.
Good one.
Search the interior.
We head down into this structure here and free the survivors before a pelican comes in to pick them up. And I realise that I like finishing the mission in this area because I used to play co-op with my dad and we'd take turns jumping off this cliff and laughing at all the funny flailing death poses. Simpler times. We end the level with 2 Marines KIA, and I'm perfectly fine with that. Sometimes you lose people. It does not bother me at all.
Chief? Chief, can you hear me? At last. Are you alright?
Lift the various troops and supplies.
Alright, it's night time, and this is where Halo really starts expanding its range. Captain Keyes has been captured by the Covenant, presumably because he gave us his only loaded pistol.
Don't keep it loaded.
So now we need to rescue him from a Covenant ship called the Truth and Reconciliation.
Hey, that's the name of the level.
Sergeant Johnson's line here at the start is a banger.
Hit 'em, Marines. Go, go, go. The Corps ain't paying us by the hour.
We start this mission with a sniper rifle, and the game hints that this could be some sort of stealth mission, but as we've seen, it's not really cut out for it. Or maybe more correctly, I'm not cut out for it. Stealth to me is leaving nobody behind to discover you, which is why I absolutely suck at Thief. Clearing out the first group of Covenant goes well. We head round the corner, and while I'll admit the remastered skybox looks nice here, it's not as if the original needed rescuing. Also at points you just straight up lose the halo, which is weird to me. Combat Evolved also reminds me pretty quickly that later Halo games spoiled me. The melee is weaker in this game and the red elites are absolute tanks. In this part of the level, we're heading to board the ship, the Truth and Reconciliation, which is just the most perfect name. You'll find Bungie ship naming conventions go hard in all the Halo games. Pillar of Autumn, Forward Unto Dawn, Truth and Reconciliation, The Shadow of Intent, In Amber Clad, nothing but banger after banger. And then you have 343's naming convention, the UNSC Infinity, and... This level also introduces 2 new Covenant obstacles. The first is the plasma turret, the design of which I've always appreciated. I like how it activates when you jump in and the seat hovers. However, like the Warthog turret in the last level, a slight incline throws my targeting way off. Then there are the Hunters, huge codependent aliens who always show up as a pair. Usually I'm fine with them, until I forget I'm on heroic and turn myself into a sitting duck. They're not bad enemies though, and the sniper makes pretty quick work of them when you're able to land a shot in one of the weak spots. After the Hunters are dealt with, Marine reinforcements arrive and we get sucked up into the Covenant ship. By this point, Halo's been landing its establishing beats really well. We see a human ship, we explore a bit of the ring during the day, we see some cliffs at night time, and then we check out a Covenant ship. You're getting the grand tour. While we wait for our next objective, we get ambushed by bastards. The first of which is an invisible elite whose camouflage is slightly less effective due to him wielding a giant shiny glow stick. This is the Energy Sword. Iconic, incredibly powerful, and a multiplayer favourite, which Bungie is basically just edging us with here because we can't use it in Combat Evolved at all. The answer to this section is grenades. Every open door gets one, sometimes more depending on my accuracy. And just as the room starts calming down, Halo throws 2 more Hunters at you in a gloriously enclosed space. I still have some sniper ammo, which makes quick work of them, and from what I can tell, all the Marines are still alive. That won't be the case for long. We get stuck behind a locked door, so we take it upon ourselves to find another way through the narrow corridors. We fight our way down, and I always do the Marines a favour of not opening the door right away. I shoot everything that enters the room, including one absolute peach of a sticky on a red elite, and then as we let the Marines in, one of them says, "All clear, sir." Which, yeah, thanks to me. Onwards to the hangar, and this one Marine absolutely tanks this sticky grenade. We get yet another pair of Hunters who roll in and make a mess of things. And with my 2 surviving Marines, I work to clear the corridors as we head upstairs. If there's one thing I can give Bungie credit for, is that they were super economical with their level design. It may be a bit obvious now, but it wasn't to me at the time, and I've never found myself bored playing through these halls. We clear a couple more corridors of Covenant and find Captain Keyes with a few other Marines. He tells us that he heard the Covenant chatting about Halo, and always found it cool when the Marines picked up Covenant weapons.
Be careful, son, they don't keep it loaded.
Back at the bridge, we have to hold the area because Foehammer can't pick us up, and the Captain suggests he can fly a Covenant dropship. Now, up to this point, there hasn't been any evidence for Captain Keyes to be able to do this, but he does make a point of ramming 2 more Hunters with it before we make our escape.
Time for a little payback.
I love how much of this game is just rule of cool. And that brings us to the Silent Cartographer, the 4th mission of Combat Evolved, and the start of which has been stuck in my brain for 23 years. You begin the mission flying in a Pelican as part of an assault team. The music is excellent, and even before you see the beach, you get the feeling you'll be coming out guns blazing. It really nails the Storm the Beaches vibe it's going for, and in this level we start with a pistol, so we know that we're going to be having a good time. After the beach is cleared, Foehammer drops off a Warthog and we can go exploring. The goal is to find the Silent Cartographer itself, a map room that'll tell us where Halo's control room is. The clever thing about the Silent Cartographer is it's on an island and you can drive the whole way around it. At this point, the linear hallways of the Pillar of Autumn feel like they were ages ago, and as it turns out, this level was actually used as a testing area throughout Halo's development. My younger self and I both agree that there's something pretty cool about being able to shirk your responsibilities and drive into the sea. The Covenant are all over this island, and you get loads of room to decide how to deal with them, which makes this feel less like a level and more somewhere you're actually exploring. And that sense of discovery matters, because one thing that feels really different going from Combat Evolved to more modern Halo games is that in Combat Evolved the architecture of Forerunner structures feels ancient. It looks and feels like it's the remnants of a civilization that no longer exists. And the Anniversary version feels like I'm exploring a Forerunner house while they're all off on holiday somewhere. You see, before the Halo series portrayed them as this, the Forerunners were mostly just an ancient civilization that was said to have created Halo. All the structures on the ring are Forerunner, and the Covenant are interested in the Halo rings because they believe Halo provides a path to their salvation. Anyway, we try to get into the main facility to find the Silent Cartographer, but a cheeky elite locks the door. This is actually one of the parts of the game that you can sequence break. You see, at the start of the level, we could have just abandoned the Marines on the beach and turned left. If you do, you can reach the security controls before the game expects you to, and even find another Warthog up there. Speedrunners actually ram the Warthog through the halls and into the door, circumventing half the level, but that's just not me. When we reach the top of the island, we encounter this level's first hunters, and I don't know why, but I always like the arena this fight takes place in. It almost feels like it should have been the first hunter encounter, as the dead Marines on the hill looking down on them are a good indicator of what might happen. But these aren't our first hunters, and I have a pistol. But that doesn't stop me throwing plasma grenades and getting chased. And the design choice here of having another 2 hunters but in a much more claustrophobic space is a great one. And yeah, they took a similar approach to the previous mission with outside the ship and then inside the ship, but I don't know, when I think of hunters as an enemy, I always think of these 4. We hit the security console which disables the doors, and then we get attacked by stealth elites as we make our way outside. If I were someone else, I'd have restarted this checkpoint until I nailed these shots, but as you can see, I enjoy giving it to you raw.
Move down the beach.
A Pelican's crashed outside, and we pick up a sweet rocket launcher, hop in a slightly damaged Warthog, and circle back to the beach. When we get to the now open door, we enter the facility where the Covenant aren't quite ready for us. You could do a bit more stealth here, but taking out this one red elite is enough for me. One thing this part of the level really achieves is making you feel like you're descending. There's so many ramps and you feel yourself getting lower and lower into this ancient underground structure. Each floor makes the building feel layered, with enemies who don't even know that you're there yet. We access the Silent Cartographer and fight our way back up to the top. Foehammer picks us up at the entrance, and I don't quite know how, but I exit the Pelican and she flies off without me. I'm literally in the cutscene as she leaves. I'll give you 2 guesses on what we'll be doing in this level. Assault on the Control Room is one of Combat Evolved's bigger levels, and it really leans into scale. There's lots of bridges, lots of Forerunner interiors, and a lot of ground to cover as you move between them. While some folk might complain about the repetition, one thing about Assault on the Control Room is that this is when I feel like Halo takes off the kiddie gloves. There's way more Covenant here than in previous levels, and the sandbox opens up completely. You'll see pretty much every possible weapon and vehicle on this map, with the exception of the shotgun, and boy will we get to the shotgun. One thing I appreciate about the start of this mission is the cutscene showing the grunts fleeing into the corridor and then having them come back when you get control of the chief. They've basically gone crying to Daddy Elite, and Halo immediately lets you punish that with a plasma turret. Wait for it. Wait for it. There we go. We run inside and get to a large Forerunner type room, and you might as well get a feel for this room because you'll be seeing a bunch of variations of it for the rest of the game. We're then on a bridge, it's snowing, we haven't seen snow on Halo yet. I think that's one of my favourite things about Combat Evolved. Each mission really has its own mood and feel, and we're getting a tour of just how varied the environments are on Halo. A Covenant Banshee's harassing a Pelican with Sergeant Johnson's squad on board, so naturally I start taking pot shots at it and it decides I'm the real issue here. The bad news is that one fuel rod can wipe you out. The good news is enemy Banshees in Combat Evolved are thick as mints. On the other side of the bridge, we come across another Forerunner room, initially containing some grunts and a stealth elite. The good thing about the Marines in Halo is they have a habit of dying in really convenient locations and leaving health alongside ammo for human weapons. Now, we've been a one-man army throughout this level so far, and we've been so efficient that the Covenant downstairs have no idea what's going on. So we whack these grunts in the back, followed by this elite, and hey, sometimes stealth can be fun. Finishing up this room, and the Halo fans and keen-eyed amongst you will notice that the Forerunners also thought these rooms were a bit confusing. so they've left handy arrows on the floor to follow. Wandering down this corridor and you'll find yourself stepping out onto the snow. The verticality of this level is great. You can look up and see the bridge you were just fighting across. There's a squad of Marines over to the left being attacked by a plasma turret, a ghost, and a new Covenant Wraith. My ego has me try to steal a ghost before remembering that there wasn't a boarding function in Combat Evolved, so we need to get a ghost the old-fashioned way. We come across the Crash Pelican and turn the corner to see a gorgeous work of art. Friendship ended with Ghost. Scorpion Tank is my new best friend. And from here on, the level mostly belongs to the Scorpion. And although the movement is a bit clunky, I always felt that made them feel powerful. The tank will be our main mode of transport for the rest of the mission because tank beats everything. There's even hunters as we go into this tunnel, which in Halo Wars are actually anti-vehicle units, and yet we still steamroll through them. This area up the hill has always fascinated me, because there's no actual objective up here. As a kid, I was convinced the point was to get into this structure in the middle. Looking back, that may have been something to do with the overall layout looking a bit like this. I'm guessing I was exploring the level based on pure instinct. The upsetting side of this next section is abandoning my tank. We're back to hiking, and despite there being a bit of battle outside, once we're inside, we're finishing the level with another section packed with corridors, big rooms, and not one, but 2 bridges. Economical level design. I think we can all appreciate it. The last part of this mission is reaching the control room. Yeah, you remember the actual objective? There is, of course, a faster and far sillier way down if you can grab a Banshee. We upload Cortana into the control room, and she quickly works out that the Covenant have found something horrible. Horrible enough that they're scared of it, which means we now need to go and find Captain Keyes. Again. So off we go to sort that out. This time, Cortana-less. 343 Guilty Spark is the 6th mission in Combat Evolved. It's one of my favourites, and it's also the one I think the anniversary version did the dirtiest. The original level has you dropped into a murky jungle. The fog is thick and foreboding, and it makes it hard to navigate. From the very first cutscene, you know something is wrong. The Covenant are running scared. There's a distinct shift in tone from the previous levels. For a start, we begin this mission completely alone. Cortana's been left behind at the control room, and once Foehammer drops us off in the Pelican, we're alone in the jungle. Or are we? Immediately upon landing, we're faced with a downed Pelican. There's a bunch of ammo scattered outside, and you can hear a pilot's emergency distress message.
Dropship Victor 9.
Outside, you find the same grunts and jackals from the opening cutscene, and then a Covenant dropship that hasn't fared much better than the Pelican. The Marines must have been doing something right if they wanted to take down one of those. Fighting our way through the surrounding Covenant patrols, you might see flickers of allied green dots on your radar, but it doesn't look like there's any Marines nearby. But wait, what was that? Giving chase, we come across gunfire. The Marines are fighting the Covenant. The Covenant are even fleeing. We help finish the fight and head into the facility to catch up with our comrades in arms. Except all that's there is a lift, and one that comes up to meet us rather than being ready to go down. Sure, I guess the Marines could have retreated further inside. Let's go down and join them. And even in that short space of time, you can tell this level is going for a different vibe. You're still the powerful super soldier you were before, but something's slightly off. Getting to the bottom of the lift, we see Covenant defences, but hang on, where did the Marines go? We saw them shooting at the fleeing Covenant on the surface. Ah well, nothing a couple of grenades won't solve. What's creepy here is you can actually return to the surface, and if you walk over to where you fought the Covenant at the entrance, you can now see Marine corpses that weren't there previously. Back downstairs, and the only thing worth pointing out here is that there's a few dead Marines in the back corner, and that the enemies inside are still all just the weaker Covenant enemies. We haven't actually seen an elite in this level yet. They're usually leading the squads of grunts and jackals. At least we're out of the jungle. It's at least slightly better lit down here. Stepping into the room and we fight some more jackals before seeing some weird green goo raining from the ceiling. A little bit strange, but the Covenant squad didn't seem particularly bothered by it. In fact, they almost seem distracted. Through the next corridor, and geez, that's a lot of blood. There's also this room with a bunch of dead Covenant inside. Looks like there was an attempt to barricade it. Strange. As a matter of fact, all of the Covenant defences are a bit oddly placed. The next room has 2 plasma turrets aimed at the far side of the room, which is marked by red symbols. But as we all know, based on complex colour theory, red is something used to decorate the floor of children's hospitals. There's also needler ammo all over the floor, like it was dumped in a hurry. And in this room, there's this Marine shooting wildly at me the moment I stick my head round the door, screaming at the top of his lungs about how he won't be turned into one of those things and that monsters are everywhere. What could be going on? And venturing further, we come across a single human and probably the biggest human blood splatter we've seen in the game. It's more gruesome than anything we've seen the Covenant do. And look, if you think I've been milking the build up to this next bit, it's because somehow, as a completely oblivious 6-year-old, I missed every single one of these context clues. Friendly indicators on the map? Marines who are a bit lost. Green goo falling from the sky? Sitting underneath the grunt's communal toilet. Marines shooting at me? He's probably just a bit stressed. We all get like that sometimes. Has he tried going for a walk? From this room onwards is Halo's big twist, and we're introduced to it by finding a video recording from Private Jenkins's helmet.
Got a bad feeling about this.
Boy, you always got a bad feeling about something.
Sarge, can you hear me?
What's going on, soldier?
He's got contact. Lots of them. But they're not coming. They're just tearing through us. What the? Oh, no!
Corporal, do you copy? Over. Mendoza, get your ass back up to second squad's position and find out what the hell is going on. But I don't have time for your lip, soldier. I gave you an order.
Sarge, listen. What is that?
Where's that coming from, Mendoza?
I don't... There! Mira! Hold still! Hold still!
Let him have it.
Here we are introduced to the Flood, a monstrous parasitic entity that consumes all sentient life forms in its path. And I'm not talking about the little popcorn infection forms, I mean the real Flood, these horrible combat forms. Seeing a Flood elite for the first time was horrible. It took me completely by surprise as a kid and scared the shit out of me. Okay, let's pause there because you can probably tell why I was building to this. I don't think the remastered version of 343 Guilty Spark does a good job at building up to the Flood. And to be fair to the remaster, it was working under modern graphical expectations. I just think a lot of the design choices that make this level great got lost in the process. The dark, foreboding atmosphere at the start is no more. Instead, the jungle is lit up like a Christmas tree, in a way that I think detracts from the mood the original establishes well at the beginning. And if I'm going to be pedantic about it, which I absolutely am, the speed of the rain is different, and I don't think that helps. Because the jungle is so well lit, there's not the same contrast of entering the brighter facility. This is supposed to be an ancient weapons cache. It's dark in the original, but lighter than outside. In the remaster, you're going from brightly lit to even more brightly lit. You could say it's like someone turned the floodlights on. The green goo room is another good example. In the original, it catches your eye and you can clearly hear it hitting the floor. In the remaster, it's harder to notice and the sound barely registers. The Jackal blood section is fine, although definitely a bit toned down compared to the original. But this is where I get a bit confused, because remember the biggest human blood splatter so far? This is how it looks in the remaster. It's massively toned down and barely even visible unless you're standing on top of it. But in the next room, where you actually encounter the Flood, they don't have this problem. Look how glossy that pool of blood is. It wasn't an age rating thing or whatever, they did a massive blood splatter in the next room. Either way, once the Flood appears, the objective becomes very simple. Get the hell out. One of the things I always forget is the Flood AI is really meant to chase you down, and I always throw plasma grenades. Moving on, and we come across the final weapon we're introduced to, and talk about saving the best for last. I have a massive bias towards the human weapons in Halo, and this shotgun is the reason why. This will carry me for the rest of the game, and it's great against the Flood. The design is excellent and it has a wonderfully meaty sound. From here on out, it's the shotgun for the combat forms and the assault rifle, still a pepper grinder, for the little ones. We come across a lift, but unfortunately it takes us down, deeper into the facility. Looking up, you'll notice it looks like the inside of that crusty sock you should really put in the wash, or just burn. Switch to the anniversary graphics however, and it's almost like you've done some laundry. Down here is the first time you fight flood forms that know how to use weapons. This is useful because ammo for human weapons would be pretty sparse from here on out otherwise. There's also a pile of Covenant crates stacked into a barricade down here too. They clearly tried to hold the flood back. It did not work. Now the next room has Marines in it, and while I'm sure it can be done, no matter how hard I've tried, I've never been able to save any of them. And as we move through the facility, on one small platform there's a detail that I've always quite liked. 2 Marines and 2 Jackals lying dead together. The way the bodies are positioned here, it looks like they were almost fighting back to back against the flood. It's a nice piece of environmental storytelling. They almost definitely couldn't understand each other's languages, and yet they were able to put aside their conflict and fight together to the bitter end. They must have been terrified. Anyway, back to killing parasites. We battle our way through the last few rooms and take a lift up to the surface. The last part of the mission is leading a few surviving Marines through flood-infested jungle where they get absolutely rinsed. It's also worth mentioning that this is the last time in the campaign you'll fight alongside Marines, a pretty telling point of how overwhelming the flood is. It is at the end of this level we meet 343 Guilty Spark, the monitor of Installation 04, the Halo ring that we're on. He gets some sentinels to clear up the flood and teleports us to the next mission. Where might you ask? Welcome to the library. Some people hate the library, but I like it. There, I said it. I enjoy the library. It feels so good to say that after all these years. You don't know what it's like to be surrounded by godless haters. I can finally feel free. I will not tolerate library slander in this house. If you thought the flood was bad in the last level, then you should know that was just a little entree for the bountiful main course we're about to have. The library is a charcuterie board of hectic violence, and the first bit of mise en place we're going to be doing is finding a shotgun as quickly as possible. I promise you that's all the food talk for this video. You got it in one paragraph and you can blame it all on MasterChef Australia, or Master Chief Australia. Our goal here is to get the index, which we need to activate Halo and put a stop to the flood. We need to do it because 343 Guilty Spark's programming doesn't allow him to retrieve it, and for the sake of having a level, we can't teleport directly to the index. We need to go through the library. You'll be pleased to hear that after the deep dive in the last level, you won't be getting that here. The library is a labyrinth of almost identical corridors. You have 343 Guilty Spark to guide you, and he'll give you little bits of exposition. But the real goal with the library as a level is to get you to understand the flood. It's a relentless battle through seemingly endless spawning waves of enemies. You cannot run your way through this nightmare, and thank God I'm not doing this lasso again. Fighting the flood in the library engages you in a constant series of push-pull fights. You're dealing with combat forms, infection forms, carrier forms, the whole horrible family. They'll spawn in front of you and behind you for pretty much the entire mission. There's not much else to say. Grab a shotgun and enjoy chewing through hordes of flood. At the end, we grab the index and head back to the control room. The next level is called 2 Betrayals. What are the betrayals, you ask? The first betrayal is Cortana revealing that everything we've been doing for 343 Guilty Spark is about to activate Halo and wipe out all sentient life in the galaxy. That's why Halo was created, to starve the flood of any food source. The second betrayal is unclear. It could be that Master Chief technically betrays Guilty Spark by not activating Halo, but I think the real betrayal is Bungie giving the Flood 1 million rocket launchers and giving me 0 checkpoints. We start by dealing with the sentinels that Guilty Spark set on us. This is where the plasma pistol really helps. It does a good job with taking down their shields. Looking back at the map, you can even see parts of the ring flashing red, which I've always taken to mean that the flood alarm is going off. We exit the control room and fight some Covenant. Cortana's plan is simple. Hit 3 generators and delay Guilty Spark from being a wee ball bag and activating Halo. We have a Wraith down here and a whole bunch of Covenant, including an elite commander who wears gold armour. The nuisance here is the Wraith, but if we head on over to the left we can pick up a rocket launcher, which will make our lives easier. I blow up the Wraith, shotgun the commander and jump into a Banshee. We don't need to travel far for our first stop. We stand next to the generator to overload it, and I always thought that removing Chief's shields was a good touch here. After that, we're heading down to the ice bridge, and it's at this point that everyone normally goes, oh, are we doing assault on the control room but backwards? And the answer to that is absolutely. From this point onwards, we're going backwards. Economical level design. Of course, the Flood makes it a bit more interesting, and we get to see fighting between the Covenant and Flood on a greater scale than what we saw in the jungle. We fight along the bridges, and I do like the fact that the Flood has one bridge and the Covenant have the other, and while you're battling the Covenant, the Flood will try and jump across. It's pretty neat. Room after room of Flood shows that the Covenant are being steadily overrun. Marines are nowhere to be seen in this mission, with the exception of the Flood forms and a corpse or two. The one positive here being that they're a source of shotgun ammo. I could really use a Scorpion right now, but all we have is this flipped over Warthog. And from pretty much here on, this level is evil, awkward enemy placements, and a complete lack of cover. The Banshee also plays differently in later Halos, but the ones in Combat Evolved are frustratingly weak. If enemy Banshees get the jump on you, it's pretty much over. Our goal here is to reach the top platform, which houses another generator to take down. Exiting the generator room, more Banshees have spawned in, and they make this section a nightmare. Feeling confident, I flew into the cave and immediately got one-shotted by a Flood with a rocket launcher. This sets the tone for the rest of the level. At this point, I'm fondly remembering the halcyon days of tearing through these canyons with a Scorpion. And that's why I was never particularly bothered by the backtracking in the final mission. They really drive home how much Halo has gone to hell in a short period of time since we crash landed on here. There are practically no humans left on the ring at this point, and the Covenant, who until now have pretty much dominated the ring, are now struggling against the hordes of Flood. The marked decrease in health pickups and the fact we're basically scavenging all of the weapons from our enemies really drives this point home. Also, our objectives in this mission mean we can't just leave the Flood and the Covenant to it while we sneak past. We have to be a one-man army. This can be particularly challenging in this last section of the mission where we come across a bunch of Flood charging against a Covenant last stand. The Covenant have 2 Wraiths, a decent number of Elites, Grunts, Jackals, and a turret. This is where I realised the game had neglected to give me a checkpoint since before the tunnel, and I have to do everything all over again. To save you all my pain, I eventually get to the Banshees and get to the next generator where the mission and my suffering ends. Keys is the penultimate level of Halo, a chaotic gauntlet of Flood and Covenant, and one that hits home just how doomed the universe is if the Flood make it off of Halo. We're teleported onto the Truth and Reconciliation by Cortana. Always found the start and cutscene of this level a little bit too slapstick for my liking.
Data needs to be...
For a relationship that's usually sarcastic rather than slapstick, it always felt a bit off to me. The camera work is fun though. The Truth and Reconciliation is in a bit of a mess since we were last aboard, all the way back in the 3rd mission. Throughout the level, we hear what's left of Keys basically begging us to be anywhere else. But our goal here is to find him so we can get to the Pillar of Autumn. It starts off innocently enough, but we end up with a giant hole between us and the rest of the ship, so we have nothing else to do but jump down into a pile of green goo. For this level, I've got a Needler, which I understand I've not given a lot of love so far. It's never really been my go-to weapon, but it does a good job at taking out the Flood on these ledges. There's a big arena where Hunters and Elites are trying to hold off Flood pouring out of the goo. This is where I'll admit that out of all of the Covenant enemies you fight across the Halo games, I always feel a bit bad for killing Hunters. They always come in pairs and it's like I'm killing 2 doves or something. Eventually, we come across another gravity lift that pulls us back into the ship. I'm sure the narrow passages of the ship will be better for cover anyway.
We'd be sitting ducks in that narrow space.
Oh dear god, oh no, oh god, oh jeez, oh fuck. We get to a shuttle bay and we're closing in on Captain Keys.
He's delirious. In pain. We have to find him.
I always found Cortana's line here funny. To be clear, what's happening to Keys here is awful. The Flood have absorbed him into a proto-Gravemind, an early Flood form that's effectively torturing him and stripping away his memories. A nearby terminal, which is only available in the anniversary version, shows us what's happening to him. He just ends up repeating his name, rank and serial number over and over again, exactly what a soldier is trained to do when captured. When we arrive at the bridge, we come face to face with what's left of Keys, and we unceremoniously punch through his skull to grab his neural interface. This is actually usually one section I do commend the remaster for. The original does look a bit funny, and the remaster, I think, really captures how horrifying this is. With that done, it's time to escape. We've got a ring to destroy. Halo's final mission, the Maw, has us return to where it all began, the UNSC ship, the Pillar of Autumn. We have now come full circle, almost like like the Truth and Reconciliation in the mission previously, the Pillar of Autumn has also seen better days at this point. The mission begins with us crashing the Banshee and climbing up into the escape pod bay, like a child crawling back inside the womb that birthed you. We start with an assault rifle and a plasma rifle, which is kind of fun. I like the idea that the plasma rifle was stored in the Banshee that we stole. Sentinels are trying to clean up the flood, Covenant Special Forces are here, and the whole ship feels like it's coming apart. After the familiar canteen area, we head into the bridge to upload Cortana and trigger the Pillar of Autumn to explode, destroying Halo in the process. But, of course, Guilty Spark appears to be a little bastard for one last time. In this game at least. The next rooms have clown car levels of flood in it, but nothing the shotgun can't solve. To get to engineering, we have to go through the cryo bay where our story first began, and I temporarily forget how ladders work. After a few more corridors of flood and a quick detour to the armory, we get to engineering. Now, I hate engineering. Actually, I have a lot of respect for the discipline, but I hate the engineering area of the Pillar of Autumn. You have to destroy 4 generator vents, which is way more annoying than it sounds. It is never just one simple grenade. Once the final generator is destroyed, we can leave. In fact, we need to leave before the ship blows the ring to high hell. This next section is referred to as the Warthog Run, and it's hard to describe how amazing this felt when I first played it. You jump in a Warthog, the timer appears on screen, and you'll need to drive fast to make it out in time. Now, I have memories of absolutely flooring it and driving for long stretches at max speed and taking ramps to jump over obstacles. This is not what I'm currently experiencing. I am so bad at driving in Halo Combat Evolved, it's embarrassing. We arrive at a bizarre gap in the Pillar of Autumn structure, which I think serves to answer the question, what happened to Foehammer? And the answer is, she dies here while being pursued by Banshees.
Cortana to Echo 419. 2 Covenant Banshees are approaching on your 6. Evade. Say again, evade. On ahead. I can't hold on.
Echo 419. She's gone.
And for anyone in the comments saying that the Warthog Run is longer than the Pillar of Autumn itself, so it isn't physically possible, I have always been in the it's just a game and it's good fun camp on that one. We need to make one final effort to escape, and a track called Rock Anthem for Saving the World plays in the background, and it is just amazing. I have been listening to Halo's soundtrack for 23 years now, and it is still magical. The game ends with a mad dash to the longsword ship in the hangar, at least until the end cutscene where it turns into a gentle jog. We take off and the Pillar of Autumn explodes, sending chunks of ring flying all over the shop. A bit like me after a curry. And with that, our time with Halo Combat Evolved comes to an end. After focusing on Let's Plays last year, I wanted to try something that wasn't just a Let's Play, but also wasn't one of those super polished video essays. So naturally, I wrote one of the longest scripts I've ever done. I think the reason I wanted to make this video about Halo is that it's been with me, and probably a lot of people my age, for a very long time now. I wanted to revisit the feelings I had when I first played it. Some kids were waiting for a letter from Hogwarts, I was waiting to be kidnapped, chemically castrated, turned into a Spartan super soldier, and replaced with a dying Flash clone that would traumatise my entire family. Yeah, Halo lore is pretty fucked. The thing is, we've all grown up now. I don't think kidnapping children's a particularly good idea anymore, and the majority of the Hogwarts kids have now covered up their horrible Deathly Hallows tattoos. Going back to something you loved as a kid and still love as an adult is a strangely nice feeling, especially when so much of it still works. The atmosphere still works, the scale still works, the music still works, and that sense that every level is trying to show you something new still works. As for Halo Campaign Evolved, I'm glad more people are going to get a shot at playing Halo, especially with it coming to Xbox, PC and even PlayStation. And Yeah, I hate to say it, but if you're my age and you're still talking about the console wars, I'd like to remind you we're pushing 30 now. One thing I sadly don't love seeing is Halo being dragged into culture war nonsense, or used as a prop by people chasing any sort of political relevance. That stuff is embarrassing, and it has nothing to do with what made this series matter to me in the first place. Still, this was really fun to make, and if nothing else, it reminded me why Halo got its hooks into me in the first place, and why it's never really left. Now that that's done, I can go back to Let's Plays.
No, I think we're just getting started.
Ah, fuck. Cheers for watching, and special thank you to the people who support me and let me make videos. See you in the next one.